Good afternoon, everyone. It's Township of Selwyn regular council meeting of Tuesday, December the 9th, 2025 will come to order. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississauga Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to the First Peoples for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. Please observe a moment of silence so that council staff and members of the public can quietly reflect on our duty to the community that we are trying to serve. Thank you. Members of the public, staff, presenters, and members of council, please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded and made available on the internet. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none, please note that in the minutes. We have our minutes of November the 21st and November the 25th before us. Are there any errors or omissions? If not, I'd like a motion to adopt them. Moved by Councillor Boyko, seconded by Councillor Henry. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Is there any discussion out of the minute? Seeing none. Now we have some pleasant things to deal with this afternoon. First of all, on behalf of council, it's a great pleasure to thank some of our community members that live in Selwyn that were very active in organizing events to celebrate the 200th anniversary of the Peter Robinson Settlers, known as the Nine Ships event. We know that many settlers came to our area, and many families in Selwyn can trace their roots to these settlers, in particular in the communities of Ennismore and Young's Point, where pride in one's Irish heritage is highly valued and shared. I'd like to thank Mary Smith, who was part of the larger organizing committee for this region. I remember seeing you years ago talking about this particular event, so it's not a one-year thing. Mary, of course, lives in Lakefield, and she made sure that we were kept informed all the time of all the events that took place to highlight the history of the settlement and impacts on our communities. This event drew many visitors to our region. We were also fortunate to have events planned by local volunteers in Ennismore and in Young's Point. We have Mary Claire Moher from the Ennismore Heritage Days organizing committee with us today. Kathy Young was also part of the organizing committee, but was unable to attend. The Ennismore Heritage Days event was held in July. It was really hot. And they celebrated with events for the whole family. Also with us virtually, we have Janice Brooks, who played a key role in organizing Young's Point celebrations. Pat Young was also part of the organizing committee known as Young's Point 200 Years on the Water, but was unable to join us today. The Young's Point events welcomed descendants of Francis Young and delivered an unforgettable experience that beautifully honored our heritage. On behalf of council and the entire municipality, thank you for making history come alive and for reminding us of the strength and pride in our community. We are truly grateful. We ask Mary Smith and Mary Claire Moher to join us as we are pleased to present certificates of recognition to them. And Janice, we will be mailing yours to you. Yes, council like to say. Janice, if you would like to say a few words.
Well, thank you very much. On behalf of Patricia and I, wanted to thank everyone on council for all of the support that we had, both in terms of staff as well as our elected officials. And it was a fabulous day, definitely a labor of love, but I guess it's like having a baby. At the time, you think, I'm never even doing this again. And then in a month, it's like, oh, when can we have another one? So thank you very much, Captain Ron and Brian, as well as Tanya for setting this up. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, we now have some long service awards. And these are for staff, and two of the awards that were supposed to be given today our staff are hard at work out there. So Steve Kidd for 15 years and Rick Minion for 15 years. They're, I guess, snow plowing, are they? Okay, all right. So we appreciate that. We will get them to them, but we have one for Tanya Gonzalez, and I always have trouble saying her name. And Angie, if you'd like to say a couple.
Yeah, sure thing. So, yeah, Tanya's not felling trees today. Maybe she'd like to be. Yeah, it's my pleasure certainly to thank Tanya for her 15 years of service to the township. Tanya actually worked on a couple of contracts prior to being hired in the Community and Corporate Services Department. So she's actually been with the township a little bit more than 15 years. Tanya has supported many committees in particular over the years, including the Smith Ennismore Police Services Board and the advisory committees for parks and recreation and trails. She currently supports the Heritage Committee, and she's actually become a de facto expert in the Ontario Heritage Act and in the heritage designation process. I suspect that if you asked Tanya, teenage Tanya, if she would be preserving history and heritage property, she would have said, "Are you crazy?" But she's really embraced the role, and she should be very proud of her efforts in preserving our community's history. She's done a lot of work behind the scenes. As you all know, she supports our customer service team. She does a lot with our communications team. She's been integral in upgrading our website. And as you all know, she's an expert in the live streaming of this council meeting. She's going to open her own Netflix streaming service, I think. We'll all be riveting information to watch. And of course, our crazy sound system here in the council chamber. So it's a lot for her to manage, and she does a great job with it. I can just note as well, when COVID started, we were so thankful that she jumped in and really helped us coordinate and get the virtual meeting set up. It was an absolute godsend. It really started out as a stopgap measure, but it's really become an integral part of our council meetings. It's very convenient, certainly for our consultants, even for some council members on occasion, staff that need to maybe work remotely, or when we have members of the public who just can't be here because they don't live close by. So I really appreciate all of her efforts there. Tanya just provides a lot of overall support to all of the departments in the township. I know that a lot of people go to her and rely on her for help. She's always willing to lend a hand. So it's certainly my pleasure to thank Tanya on behalf of the township. She's definitely a dedicated employee for the last 15 plus years for the township. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I've worked with Tanya for all those 15 years that she's been here and quite enjoy it. She's also really great paparazzi. So if you'd like to come up, and we're going to So we, at this time, usually give volunteer firefighter long service awards for 25 years plus. And we, unfortunately, our firefighters are not in attendance, so we will make sure that we give them to them at the dinner, the firefighter dinner in January. But just the same, Ted Jackman has been with us for 45 years. Dave Robinson for 35 years and John Young for 35 years. So a hand for them, even though they're not here. And we'll make sure that we'll all be there for the. So now we have a staff introduction. Lane.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Pleased to introduce council today to our newest member of the Financial Services team, Megan Jennings. Megan joined our team in late November as taxation and billing supervisor. She comes to Selwyn with many years of credit and collections experience in the private sector, and then also most recently as an accountant in the Revenue and Tax Department at City of Kawartha Lakes. Megan's work experience involves working with customers and problem solving their payment issues, and their key skills that are going to be exactly what we needed as some of our account balances have risen since COVID. So Megan's work there will be instrumental. Megan's been training with Kira in our department on the taxation and billing aspects of her role, and this new challenge will be coming up in January. And that's when we send out the interim bills and they're prepared and sent out. Council, welcome Megan.
Welcome, Megan. Yes, very nice to have you. Would you like to say anything? You have to go to the mic.
No pressure. No, I'm just glad to be here and I'm looking forward to building some great relationships with council and staff and residents. Work towards a common goal.
Okay, well, again, welcome.
Thank you.
Look forward to working with you.
Thank
Thank you. We now have Caroline Clark. If you would like to go to the podium, you have 10 minutes.
All right. Hello, council members. On October 28th, 2025, there was a Selwyn Township meeting where future options for the Link rural bus service were discussed. And I learned of this meeting from a concerned transit passenger on October 30th. And in response, I have collected more data for the council to consider in their final decisions for the Link. I conducted an in-person public survey from November 24th to November 28th, and my findings are included in the report submitted to today's agenda. I've brought with me completed physical surveys, 47 of which were done in person with local business owners, employees, and members of the public, along with copies of my initial survey approach and online petition, which was unsuccessful. In this presentation of my report, I will be providing evidence and examples of how useful the Link has been and the potential it carries to become a critical asset for our community. From speaking with individuals in our area, I have learned that many residents of Peterborough are unaware of the Link rural bus service, and many residents of Selwyn find the current bus schedules to be exceedingly inconvenient. This may have had a substantial impact on the previously collected ridership data and should be considered for the future potential of the Link. With only 5 buses running in a day, this means that passengers would risk being stranded for up to 4 hours waiting for the bus. If the buses were more frequent and affordable, ridership numbers have potential to increase significantly, as proven by collected testimonials and survey results. Speaking of my survey, it consisted of 3 yes or no questions with 113 participants, 21 of which were business owners. From the results of my survey, 88% of people said they don't use the bus. 48% said they would personally use the bus if it was more convenient. And 23% said they know someone who would use it. And 79% said the bus should continue to serve Ennismore. Through talking to many people, I've heard an echoed acknowledgement of the increasing population of young people in our area, as well as a recognition that we do have some members in our community who struggle financially and thus transportationally. Some local businesses shared with me their personal stories and examples of individuals who are currently struggling that would greatly benefit from having a more convenient and reliable transit service. One resident in particular walks all the way from Windward Sands on Cary Line to access the convenience store on Robinson Road because his car broke down. And that's a 2-hour walk on the shoulder of Robinson Road next to high-speed traffic. Another resident who relies on the bus to help uses it to help get her children to daycare in Ennismore, and some employees from local businesses also use it to get to work. There are also a number of post-secondary students who don't own a car, students from Canadian Welding Skills who have considered using the bus, and some students from Chemung Public School who also indicated they would consider using the bus if it was more frequent and reliable. 19 out of the 21 businesses that I visited indicated that they would love to see the bus stay. To quote John's Independent Grocer, the more access there is to our area, the more business and customers we get out here. Many residents have concerns about how the bus will affect Canadian welding skills. As one individual said, if the students can't get to the welding school, then there might not be a welding school at all. Again, I remind our municipal council of the presently inconvenient and sparse schedules, as this has had a great impact on ridership numbers over the 6-year trial period. Throughout the duration of my study, I have been mindful of the council's budget constraints and the current views regarding ridership data, with some individuals dubbing the transit service as the ghost bus. In order to accommodate a small portion of Ennismore until the next turnover period for the link, I have created a suggested route proposal based on the one provided by Trent Student Association. My route will be only approximately 5 kilometers longer than the currently selected route, the longest option turning around in the neighborhood of Deerfield Crescent and Mystic Meadows on Robinson Road. As a regular passenger of the link, I would also suggest the buses be spread evenly throughout the day, with 1 to 2 hours between scheduled round trips. Based on one collected testimony, I would also suggest the scheduled routes begin an hour earlier to accommodate passengers who are commuting to their places of work. These suggestions may help guarantee the near or far future sustainability of the service, as it is more accommodating for the needs of regular passengers who may rely heavily on public transit. And if you guys have any questions, I can answer them.
Okay. Thank you very much for your report and for the work you've done for the survey. Are there any questions for Karen?
Sorry, I should do this formal through you. Just talking. Thank you so much for this report. I just want to say the amount of work you put into it over the last 2 months is amazing. For anyone not aware, Carolyn had reached out to council and it ended up in our junk mail. And when I found it, I immediately responded to her and asked for a meeting just to see where she was at, what the report looked like. And John, I invited into the conversation because John and I do have a lot of questions about ridership and what that looks like. And as the Ennismore route's getting axed, I was really curious to see what else was out there. But the main point I want to say here is I really appreciate this report because it does show both the positive and the negative. There is feedback from both those who don't appreciate the bus service and those that do for us to consider. And I really do believe that this information will be taken forward as we continue to consider this. That's my 2 cents. I don't know if John's hand was up, so.
All
Thank
right,
you.
seeing no other questions, I'd like someone to make a motion to receive the presentation. Councillor Boyko, Councillor seconding, all in favor.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so now we are going to be hearing from Richard Stigenga.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, members of council. Pleasure to be here to discuss the results of the financial statement audit for the township for December 31st, 2023. So the documents in your package are significantly longer than the presentation I will go through here. So and as well too, the presentation is the summary of those documents. So the first off, start off with a summary of the independent auditor's report. So that is our report on the financial statements. So, and we pull out the important paragraph there that, in our opinion, accompanying consolidated financial statements fairly in all material respects the financial position of the township of Selwyn at December 31st, 2023, and the results of its operations and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. So that is your standard clean, unqualified auditor's report. Keep in mind, when it says consolidated, the numbers we will look at include the operations of the library board as well. And then as well too, they are in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards, or PSAB, which is a different format than how you budget. So try to highlight some of those differences as we go through. Just give you an idea as to some of the things that we do for the audit to gather our audit evidence to produce our auditor's report. Of course, a lot of that involves testing and analyzing the amounts in your books and records, and then as well too looking at how money's moved in and out of the municipality, and then as well too looking at how things get adjusted through journal entries, and as well too also looking at council minutes. Overall, the audit is complete pending receipt of the signed representation letter, council approval of the financial statements, and responses back from legal inquiries. Overall, for 2023, there were no significant difficulties are encountered during the course of our audit. But of course, in 2023, there were a number of changes in relation to PSAB presentations that did cause some delays in getting the information into a format where you're seeing it today. And the biggest change there was the implementation of the asset retirement obligations, which is an additional liability that is reported that we'll take a look at a little later on. In addition, there was the new standard in how you report your investments, moving investments that are traded in an active market away from how they were reported at cost, and now they're shown at market value. So within the detailed financial statements, you'll see that we accumulated a loss in that area at the end of 2023, forward in 2024 based on markets that should improve. And then as well too, those were the main things with the audit. There was excellent cooperation from your staff. Our plan, as I said, there were no changes. And then as well too, there was one difference that was noted, and it is listed there on the final piece there, that there was some additions to capital assets in 2022 that were not reported, and therefore they were adjusted for 2023. So overall, that doesn't have an impact on your operational surplus or anything. So it was just between the operating side and the capital side. So now when we take a look at some actual numbers, the presentation gives you a 5-year idea of your financial assets. So these are assets that are either cash or can be turned into cash. Overall, your cash and investments were down slightly. They were almost down in the same amount as your taxes received when were up. So your investments consist of investments with the CIBC as well as high interest savings accounts. and the cash represents the cash in your bank accounts. Your accounts receivable, in 2023 were, down slightly from the previous year, mainly due to HST rebates being, outstanding, less in 2023 than 2022. Your taxes receivable, you'll see there that, your receivable amount at the end of 2023 is $2.3 million, up from 1.9 in the previous year. Now, overall, as a percentage of your total levy, the way the ministry looks and calculates your indicators of health, you're still at 7.3% in 2023, which is well below the low risk range of 10%. So although they went up, you're at a good spot to begin with. So you're still in, not as good, but still in a good spot. I do believe your treasurer said earlier, you're working on that as well. And then as well too, you have some other inventories that you have available for sale. Next, we come to your financial liabilities. So these are to others or other amounts that you can recognize as revenue currently. Your accounts payable accrued liabilities is historically one of your, was the largest liability. That represents your trade payables and the amount you owe on a day-to-day basis, as well as the amounts of developer deposits as well. Some amounts, almost 3.7 million down from 3.8 in the prior year. Your deferred revenue obligatory reserve funds. So these are amounts that you've received for development charges, Canada Community Building Fund and parkland fees that you've gotten the money, but you don't get to actually bring it into revenue until you spend it in accordance with the rules. So it sits there until you spend it in that manner. Your deferred revenue, majority represents your unspent OCIF funding. Your long-term debt, there was just pay downs this year for 105,000. And then I'm jumping to the last item, your employee future benefits. That's calculated actuarially and it's an increase there. And then we come to the biggest change in these financial statements. It's your landfill closure and post-closure liability. You'll see up until the end of 2022. There was a balance there, and then it goes to zero in 2023, and then it gets captured in the next line there, was retirement, asset retirement obligations. So that is the new standard that came in, and it's almost a $4.6 million liability. So in the past, you would record your landfill liability based on how much of your landfill that you have used. Now the new standard states that you record that liability as to the entire amount. You don't prorate it for the portion. So within there, the landfill portion of that is about 3.2 million. And then as well too, some obligations for the 3 gravel pits that we require rehabilitation. So therefore that meets the definition of an asset retirement obligation, and it's the next largest portion with $1.1 million. And as well too, we have some asbestos in some sewer mains that do anything with will be required to be handled in the appropriate manner. So there's about $275,000. Those 3 numbers added together give your almost $4.6 million. So then the standard there says if you're required under any type of legislation to return the asset to its original state or cost to remediate it, then those assets and the related liabilities need to be picked up here. So those are the 3 items that were determined to be a liability for the township at the end of 2023. The impact of that will filter through when you take a look at your financial assets. Overall, in 2023, there was a decline, and that's mainly due to the impact of the AROs, as you have more liabilities at that point in time. And next, we come to your non-financial assets. So these are assets that you don't try to turn into cash. So therefore, your non-financial asset is your tangible capital asset, and so that that did increase by about $7 million year over year. And that's due to both funded additions as well as the addition of the asset retirement obligations. The other side of that liability goes to the assets if the asset is still in use. So in your case, the Smith landfill becomes an asset. The Ennismore landfill, since it's closed and not providing service anymore, does not form part of this. And then as well too, you have your amortization off of those amounts. And then you'll see there in cash assets that you added to your tangible capital assets. So these are the amounts outside of the asset retirement obligations, and $6 million. And as well too, facilities was one of the larger ones with work being done at the Lakefield Chamber Services Board building, and as well too roadways with work done for resurfacing, and then the work being done on Water Street. Some of the larger projects there giving about $2.3 million in additions there, and the related impact on water and sewer with the Water Street there for a total of $6 million. And you can see there on the next slide gives you an idea that 2023 was a large tangible capital addition year. There's some of the last 5. And next we come to your accumulated surplus slide. So this is perhaps the most important slide here. This gives you an idea of what you have left over at the end of the year. Keep in mind, ESAB financial statements treats all your capital fund, your reserve and your reserve funds, and your operating fund as one large fund. So this here then gives you a bit of a breakdown as you can see what's left in each of these individual funds. Overall, you're invested in your tangible capital assets, represents your net book value, less the debt you have associated with that, less the asset retirement obligations on those assets. So that's how that amount is calculated. And then as well too, historically, the township that always treats each department individually and transfers its applicable surplus to their reserves. And there are 3 areas where the operations are, there's no reserve monies left for operations, the community centers and the fire services. That's why we're showing a deficit up there in the surplus schedule. Overall, the deficits in those 3 areas, they go down by 51,000 year over year. There's an in-year surplus. The accumulated deficit is still reported there, so it's the 71,000 and 53,000. And then as well too, your unfunded employee future benefits, since there's a deficit because you don't fund that until you pay those monthly premiums, so therefore it doesn't factor into your surplus or impacting your reserve and your reserve funds. And then what we do have moving forward is the amounts down below within your reserve and your reserve funds. You can see there that in total, the reserve and reserve funds increased by about 700,000, $3 million. So it's good to see that they did increase with your capital additions. And the following slide tries to give you the breakdown of your PSAB surplus in comparison to your operating surplus. And so therefore, under PSAB, if you recognize a revenue, let's say for a capital grant, it comes in the year you spend it, whereas the expense doesn't until you appreciate that asset. So that's why in years where you've added capital with capital grants, then you should be generating a surplus. And then in years where you don't have a lot of capital additions, then you might see that PSAB surplus go negative as the amortization is higher than related revenues. And then the lower portion shows all the differences between PSAB and how you report for your tax rate operations budget. So, and then you can see there with the addition, adding back the amortization, but funding all your capital assets, gain on sale of intangible capital assets and proceeds. And then the big thing is the changes for your landfill closure, post-closure liability, and then as well to retirement, asset retirement obligations for accretion, and as well to principal payments on long-term debt. We need to raise that either in rates or through taxation, but for the piece out, they don't count as an expense. So when all is said and done, municipality said able to increase their reserves by a little less than 700,000, and as well to improve by about 51,000 on your community service, community centers and fire services departments. So you see that over the last 5 years, your revenues have been higher than your expenses, and then as well, the final slides here just give the individual details of your revenues and expenses. Overall, $23.3 million in actual revenue compared to a budget of 22.5. Number of larger components there in the variances with the higher interest rates and obtaining their cash and investments, that your investment income was higher. That was the case for most municipalities in 2023, with your taxes receivable being a little higher. Then of course your penalties and interest on those higher, as well to your subs. Your subs were greater than the write-offs, and your user charges. That includes all your fees that you charge in relation to water and sewer, charges at the landfill, building permits, fees at the recreation centers, community centers, things as well as rents to other organizations, and then as well to your other grants represents monies from the Ontario Petroleum Fund, as well as funding for the EV chargers, and then your developer contributions earned represent your development charges that you use. So you used 214,000 in 2023, and then the Canada Community Building Fund represents what's called the federal gas tax, and it's 1,000 this year, mainly for resurfacing as well as for planning. Slide gives you an idea of where your expenses went on a PSAT basis. So these numbers include amortization as well as accretion and the reversal of the prior year landfill amounts. Do not include capital. You can see there as a result, then you were coming in under budget in total. There is position, and then as well to following slides. Let you look at the same expenses just broken down in some additional costs for both additional revenues, both in recreational facilities, things coming back to normal after the pandemic, then resulted in some additional materials costs. Then within rents and financial, there is accretion representing the inflationary cost of your landfill liabilities. So it's the major difference there from rents and financial. And you did have approximately 2,000 sales. Things on top of the 2023, and then as well too, we're scheduled to come back next week and I'll be able to complete everything for 2024. So it's almost done as well.
Thank you very much. I don't know if there are any questions for Richard, but we do have a follow-up report from Lane that deals with this. So any questions for Richard at this point in time? Councilor Boyko.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Sennison. Good to see you again, Richard. Lane has been very helpful as I've been emailing back and forth trying to understand this. And so I have 3 questions that I would like to ask, and maybe Lane will answer them or maybe you can answer them, but I'm seeking to understand. I'm looking on page 2 of your consolidated report, not your presentation, and it's consolidated statement of operations and accumulated surplus for the end of 2023. And I'm seeking to understand where it says that in 2023, we had a budgeted annual surplus of, it looks like 2.3 million, 2.4 million, And the actual was more than that, 3.7 million. I don't know if are you on the page that, yeah, great. So I'm trying to understand, we can't have a surplus in 1 year of 3.6 million. So could you explain that number to me?
Yeah, I'll try first.
Okay. Yeah,
So, yeah, so then, of course, these numbers do not include your capital expenses, they include the amortization, so, and as well too, since you had some positive variances in your revenue, the largest one being your investment income, almost being about $6,000-7,000 higher, so therefore you're going to have a positive difference there anyways. And then when we go to page 2.
yeah,
You can, and that second schedule almost right in the middle.
yeah,
You'll see the annual surplus that was there on the previous page.
yeah.
Well, when you add back the amortization, which you don't, it's for setting your tax rate, and then you add back the $6 million in actual capital additions, then that number here, it does give you difference. That number comes down to $920,000.
Okay.
So it's the biggest thing is the difference, how capital is treated. And
Okay. I'm closer to understanding. Thank you. Through you, Mayor, says my second question, and this goes to, I think it's just words, accounting words that I'm trying to understand. When it says on, again, I go back to page 2 of your report, and it says 89 million of accumulated surplus. And that's great. But can you explain the difference between accumulated surplus, how it relates to reserves, reserve funds? Because at one point we're talking about reserves, and then we're talking about reserve funds. And another point, we're talking about investments, which earned 1.2 million in 2023. So what is the difference then? Accumulated surplus, reserves, reserve funds, and investments.
page 11 of the slide there.
So slide up here. I guess I'll see it up here. So, here.
But then this also gives you a breakdown of that dollars when you take a look at the total of the slide. So, of course, the largest component of your 89 surplus is your amounts that you have invested in assets. Of course, these buildings are the roads, bridges, sewer plants. So that makes up the majority of your 89 surplus. Right, well, you've spent that money other than a little bit of long-term debt, so that all the cash, 89% cash.
Right.
Yes, so therefore, it's all pretty much invested. It's the difference there between the 89 million, 67 million is about $22 million, which is pretty much the amount we have left in the reserve. So now, your reserve and reserve funds are as accountants, we consider them equity. So,
Okay.
Surplus, just called a different name. Use the term reserve and reserve funds over time somewhat interchangeably. Years ago, you'd always have to have an asset attached to a reserve fund. You lightened a bit on requirements, so then in total, you had about $23 million in reserves. And then, of course, with that equity needs, you actually have the cash sitting I understand the financial position. So, that when you take a look, $2 million in investments and $6 million in cash. So yes, really, the reserves is what is generating that investment income of $3 million for selling.
Okay, thank you. One final question. Thank you. This one involves assets. And the township owns a great deal of land. Unserviced land, small lots, other parts that are acreage. It may or may not be surplus to the township, but it's land that we own. I understand that it's hard to determine a market value for that land, but nowhere on there in any of the reports did I see land listed as an asset. So where does, or maybe I just didn't see it in all my reading through. Is that land
Yes.
listed as an asset?
You do have land noted, so it's detailed in financial statements. Note number 9, page 16. Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, all right. Okay. Yes, so the land is noted in your tangible capital asset note. And dollars at the end of the year. So that includes land and land improvements.
Okay.
So the major increase there in 2023 is the fact that the other half to the landfill liability
Right.
is the landfill, and it's treated as a land improvement. So that's why that increased up to the land. So, and then as well too, within the detailed schedules there on page 23, you will see there that those amounts highlighted there as well.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate this.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. I'm a little challenged with the PSAB versus all the other statements I read almost daily. But I think I do understand it. And so kind of post reconciliation, your GL entries to balance the budget, the actual increase in reserves is, as per the bottom of that slide, $693,000 this year.
Yes.
Represents about an 8% of the previous budget year. Correct?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, just confirming.
Yep.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah,
Any other questions?
maybe just further to Councilor Black's comment that, yeah, these are awfully confusing set of statements. Most accountants in our office don't like them either, so it's just trying to keep all the fund accounting, grouping them all together as one in the presentation, whereas internally you keep them separate.
Hopefully the province understands them because they're the ones that asked us to do this.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you for saying they're confusing. It made me feel better.
they,
I guess to you, Madam Mayor, just with respect to the cover report that's included, there's a recommendation there to approve the presentation which is provided in the financials. I did just want to thank the firm, thank the utility. We've worked with them over the years in various names and iterations. Veronica, who's not here today, is the audit senior. I work very closely. She just does exemplary work. Definitely the delay, as Richard outlined, the asset retirement obligations. They definitely an impact on our resources to be able to do that, and that falls on me. So I just wanted to thank the audit firm for working with us and kind of bringing us home today. And definitely the 24 statements we should have by Q1 of 2026, and then we'll be back on track for 2025 moving forward.
okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions for Lane? I have one. The recommendation says that you're gonna post them on the township website. Will there be an explanation as to why the delay occurred?
To you, Madam Mayor, I can put something together into a paragraph or something along those lines. Yeah, I think that the paragraph on the bottom of my first page under delays would be something like that. We could work that too.
I think so that the public understands, because some of them might be scratching their head. Why are we posting 2020, almost 2026? So yeah, I appreciate that. I'm looking for a mover for that recommendation. Deputy Mayor Black, Councillor Cool seconding. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Thanks, Richard. All right, question period. Madam Clerk.
Yes, through you, we did have one question that was emailed to us. It is from Joe Latour with the Bridge North United Church. On behalf of the Bridge North United Church Food Bank, I would ask that you raise the following question at the meeting today. Given that the policy to eliminate curbside pickup for non-eligible sources is set to take effect on January 1st, 2026, and that this will have a significant impact on the 2 local food banks in Selwyn Township, we would ask that council consider including the Bridge North United Church Food Bank and the Lakefield Community Food Bank under the umbrella of any recycling collection solutions for the local libraries, which are also considered NES. Both food banks are in close proximity to local libraries. I would have liked to pose this question in person, but have a commitment to serve the food insecure at the food bank this afternoon. We expect record numbers of families this holiday season. Thank you for your support of the local food banks.
Thank you for the question. So the township is in a similar situation as the food bank. Our facilities will also not get curbside collection as of January 1st. Our plan is to use bins provided by a waste services contractor for recycling at some key locations. Our staff will be picking up the recyclables at a number of our facilities and taking them to these bins. We unfortunately would not be able to pick up recycling for the food banks as well. We will be considering a report later in this meeting dealing with non-eligible sources. There is a recommendation with the NES recyclables could be taken to Pido Road or the Waste Connection site on County Road 6. Locations can also set up bins with a third party contractor, similar to how we are managing our recycling. Council has sent a resolution, which you are aware, advocating for the province to reconsider the curbside recycling decision for nonprofit organizations such as food banks. We remain hopeful that the province will change this decision. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to our next report, and that's Janice talking about the non-eligible sources.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Yes, I think council is pretty well aware of the changes that are coming. We have talked about this a few times. So essentially, the full transition to producer responsibility for box materials is happening as of January 1st, 2026. And with that, there will no longer be curbside collection available to non-eligible sources. Peterborough and at our depot, that's the existing depot at our landfill site, there will no longer be any NES materials allowed in that depot as well. We do receive funding from CMO to operate that depot, and that is a key component of the agreement that we have with them around the depot. And as we have just noted, this does impact the township as well. We have numerous facilities where we will no longer be receiving collection. As the mayor noted in her answer to Mr. Latour's question, we will be utilizing bins that we already had at some of our facilities to manage materials, and we'll be taking additional materials from other facilities to those bins to manage them in many cases. It is a significant impact on the not-for-profit sector, and certainly, as the mayor said, we have sent off to the province the request to reconsider the exclusion of those types of uses from the collection. The province did direct CMO, who is the authority who's managing the blue box material collection on behalf of the producers. They did direct them to develop a solution that would allow for the continued commingling of materials at the landfill site at the depot. However, it really doesn't appear to be very feasible for the township. I'm not aware of any municipalities who are taking them up on their offer. It almost seemed to be structured to be so difficult that it didn't make that it didn't make any sense, to even consider it. So, we would still be required to have, our own contracts for the collection of the materials over and above a calculated percentage that CMO would come up with, that they would determine to be eligible. The balance, we would have to make arrangements to have, taken away and processed. And so that really just, isn't a viable option for the township. So really, we're left with two things to consider. So in our conversations with Waste Connections of Canada, they have advised that they do intend to set up their transfer station that's located at County Road 6, so that they will accept material from Selwyn Township NES sources. The site is currently licensed and able to accept those types of materials, and then they would haul them away to their big recycling facility for proper processing. They anticipate that there would be a small flat fee, tipping fee established just to help manage some of the costs of the area. They haven't actually advised what that would be, but did say that it would be a small reasonable. We have just recently as well received confirmation through the County of Peterborough that the Pido Road facility in Peterborough, that material recycling facility, will still be available for non-eligible sources from the county. And there is no charge to that facility. And of course, when the county made the decision not to undertake the curbside collection anymore, they did notify all the NES locations that had been receiving the service, and provided some options, get a bin from another waste hauler, that sort of thing. So it's anticipated that a lot of them will probably find other ways to manage their materials, whether they're renting a bin on their own or working with some of their neighboring small businesses to do so. So that's the first option. The second option, of course, council could direct us to establish a separate NES blue box material depot at the landfill site. Again, we would need to ensure that there's no commingling of NES materials from the CMO funded site and this site. This would take additional operating requirements just to make sure that the two areas would be properly, excuse me, managed, proper separation of the materials, scheduling pickups, just managing traffic, all that good stuff. We would have to have a contract, obviously, with a service provider to provide the necessary bin rental, pickup, and processing. And it's really difficult at this point to really understand what the volumes of material would be that we would get. We do have some really high level estimates from the county that they did just based on some survey work that they did. So we've kind of relied on that to come up with some ideas of what the cost might be. It would be a brand new cost in Department 30, in the Department 33 budget. We don't believe there would be a significant capital cost to set up the area, but again, as previously noted, there would be significant operations costs. Based on the high level estimates we have from the county and some information we've gotten from some service providers, it appears that the cost to just have the materials, the bin rental, collection, and processing would be between $40,000 and $55,000, depending on the volume of material received. So again, as this would be a new cost in the budget, we would either need to increase the tax rate to accommodate it, or to establish a tipping fee to recover the cost. And given this new cost, it would be recommended that there would be a tipping fee established to offset those costs. Again, it's difficult to come up with what that tipping fee would be, because it's hard to know what the estimates are, the estimated what the volumes would be. But based on those high level estimates, it would be recommended, if council did choose to go with option 2, that we would establish a tipping fee of $400 per ton, or a minimum fee of $10 per load, at least to get started. And then we would have to review that probably at the midpoint of 2026 to see how it's going in terms of the volumes that are being received, and whether or not we're able to cover our costs with that. The recommendation made in the report is that we do proceed with option one. I think those are two viable options for folks who don't have other means to get rid of their materials. Pido Road is free of charge. It's in the city of Peterborough. Fairly convenient. Most people do go to the city of Peterborough. And the County Road 6 Waste Connection site is, again, convenient. It's probably 8 to 10 minutes outside of the village of Lakefield. So again, there would be convenience for people to do that. Otherwise, we're looking at setting up a new cost in our Department 33 budget that would have a significant impact on our operations at the Lakefield site. And I'm happy to try and answer any questions you have.
Any questions?
Thank you, through your worship. Thanks for the report. Just to confirm the County Road 6 site, is that Hall's Land?
No.
No,
it's not.
whereabouts is it?
It's the Waste Connections Recycling Facility. It is in Duro.
Yeah,
It's on County Road 6. It's not it's that Hall's Glen is the Duro Dummer landfill site.
okay, so
This
it's
is a-
not
No, this is a Waste Connections.
Waste
It's
Connections.
where the construction and demolition debris goes as well.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, we're in this position with the province, making the rules around NES not applicable to, the normal, pickup, but, you know, we have a recycling center currently at our landfill site. How do we know that businesses aren't going to simply take their recycling to our current residential recycling site? How do we know that?
Well, we will have to manage that. So, based on our experience, we don't really feel, and Adam can confirm this, with his staff. Although materials have been allowed to be commingled over the past 2 years, we don't really feel that there is a high volume of the non-eligible source materials coming in there
Okay.
because they had curbside collection. Other places already had their own collection services arranged for. So, but we will indeed have to be very mindful of that, very diligent to make sure that we are eliminating any NES materials that are wanting to come to the
Right.
site.
Yeah, I just see that as, you know, most large businesses have their own bins. If they have a significant amount of cardboard every week, they're gonna have their own bins. So I think it's smaller businesses that are gonna feel the biggest impact and, they'll either take it home, or try to take it to our recycling center. I can't see them frankly driving, to Pido Road or anywhere else to take it. And I think, I support the motion, the recommended motion. I don't think we don't have enough data to really understand how much, is going to go, to the, waste management site or Pido. Will they be tracking that for us as a township?
No, I don't believe.
So we won't
there's
have any
no-
data to know
yeah,
what,
there's no tracking. If you use Pido Road, you know that you just go in, you dump your materials.
yeah.
leave, And Waste Connections would be tracking it either.
So at Pido, they are mixing still. They continue to mix, residential and NES. Because if they're not checking, then again, how do they know that?
My understanding is that they would be taking both. Because it is a material recycling facility.
Right,
So they receive a large volume of materials and then they would have the contracts, they process it and then they would have contracts to, in some cases, dispose of it in other ways. And in some cases, there's a market for some of those materials.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I just want to make a mention that the county was collecting for the non-eligible sources for the year of the transition. And a report came to county council to continue that, and it was turned down. But the mayor and deputy mayor of Southwick did support continuing it. And I'm gonna keep saying that because I have a feeling, I have a feeling we are gonna hear about it in January when a lot of people finally move into the fact that things have changed, even though they're getting stuff, correspondence or communication on it. Yeah, it's gonna be a revelation to them. I think all HE double hockey sticks is gonna hit. Anyway, I'm looking for, that you were gonna support the motion for recommendation. Seconded by Councillor Boyko, all in favor? That's carried. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. And that is carried. All right, we will move on to main bans on procurement policy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This policy is a long time coming to council. You can see in the body of the report, we first passed the procurement file back in 2007. It's been on, I know it's been on my work plan for some time, and it wouldn't be here today without support of Dennis and Nancy and the management team. Just 3 points I'd like to go through. First of all, the objectives of the policy are outlined in the bylaw and also the report. Something that's been a driving force for the management team since day one is that any purchase should provide the best value for all ratepayers. And so that's still the core principle included in the policy. The procurement process needs to be open and accountable. We need to encourage competition, and there needs to be clear direction and accountability. And I think bylaw before council provides that. With sustainability and some of the different initiatives that came forward in the last few years, we've also added environmental responsibility and sustainable procurement. With respect to the updates from the last 2007 iteration to this one, definitely increased the limits, given the fact that with 18 years have went by. We have some additional procurement tools in terms of RFI or request for information, request for expression of interest in pre-qualification and qualified supplier lists. We've had regard for the Accessibility for Ontario Disabilities Act and all its regulations. So those considerations are included. We mentioned before the sustainability considerations. And we've included as well a schedule of exclusions and irregularities out of Canada. The past some of those things were definitely stressors when we're going through the purchasing process. But I think by including them there, it's very clear and transparent to anybody that wants to take time to review it. And just one final note, the province just recently has introduced some legislation that's not yet approved with respect to prioritizing Ontario and Canadian goods. We recognize that we had some discussions about delaying, but felt that this has been on my work plan for so many years that we needed to move it forward. Council, so we have a pledge that once that legislation, if approved, we will review this legislation and see if we need to amend it further. Take into account Ontario and Canadian purchases. Welcome any questions.
Right, are there any questions, Councillor Boyko?
Thank you through you, Mayor Senes. Yeah, I appreciate the policy and all the work that has gone into it, and I don't disagree with any part of it. This goes to the last point that the province may enact legislation demanding that we procure goods and services from business from Ontario or Canadian. And my question, I guess, and I'll ask it as a question rather than put forward as a motion to get other opinions on this, is should we take the initiative now? And we could add on page 7 of your report where it says number 6, other processes, market research tools and the rest, and item F, stating that the township may prioritize goods and services providers that are local from Ontario or Canadian. That would add something different than what the province will likely come up with, in that we may be looking at a good or service that we're purchasing, and maybe a local person is not the lowest price, but the difference in price is relatively insignificant. So we are still getting the underlying principle of the best value for the people of Selwyn, but we think that it would be better maybe to support a local business or an Ontario business than an American business, even if it's going to cost just a little bit more. So that's why the word may. So the question is, and I'll open it if anyone wants to comment or tell me to be quiet, it's up to them. And perhaps move it as a motion that we would add to item 6, an item F, stating that the township may prioritize goods and service providers that are local from Ontario or Canadian.
I think that that is probably a question to staff as to say, does that contravene any acts like the Competition Act when putting something like that into play? Who wants to answer it?
Sure, sure, I'll take a shot at that and that answer and weigh in as well. I think given the existing rules that we have, it would. There's definitely been challenges across Ontario over the last number of years, though, purchasing local, those types of things. So I think it might be a better use of resources to just defer until the problems passes legislation. I anticipate it's going to be, and then we would be able to do a full review based on actual legislation in the state, and then bring that back before council.
That's fair enough, if I could. And so will we say we'll revisit this in a year in case the province does not come up with legislation, because it may or may not. So that would leave it that if the province brings forth legislation, then we'll revisit it. But what if they do not?
Yeah, so to you, Madam Mayor, I think that the issue of the legality of it would still be there if they don't. So I think that I just think it would be the best use of resources is to see what the province does. And then at that point, we can respond and do have assurance of the burden to today at least. That once that's done, we would do that.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Councilor Coolidge.
Through you. Yeah, I just wanted to note, I checked on the weekend and they're already in the second reading. So like they're scooching this along real quick. I don't think like if we suggested to bump to like the second quarter, like that would be almost too late too. I think they're going to push it through quite quickly. So I support pushing it and waiting till the province brings in that legislation.
Any other questions? Deputy Mayor Blanc.
Thank you, through Mayor. With respect to which pages, it's page 4 of your of the policy. It says authority to renew or extend contracts. Department manager can authorize with written up to the manager. Is that is there a limit on the size of the contract that they are allowed to? I know that the amount is 50,000 coming to council, correct? But it doesn't specify. It could be a large contract, small contract.
Yeah, to you, Madam Mayor. How I read that is that if it's duly authorized by council, so it would have already came to council.
Okay.
If it was over 50, council would have approved it. This would just allow us to, let's say, we had a completion date of November, and then in the operational review and things, they said you can't do that by November, but it needs to go to March. And that would allow the department manager and myself to review that. You know, as outlined, assuming that the performance is satisfactory to date, have no other delays, and we do have sufficient fund with it, then we would be able to approve that as a matter of fact.
Okay. So it doesn't really say that it has to have been in the budget or whatever already. Or does it say somewhere else that I'm missing?
Yep, to you, Madam Mayor. I think, yes, so I think that the third bullet there, sufficient funds are available in an approved budget. So that's one of those things where it could be a multiple year project and we have those funds already approved. Yes, so I think given that, and I know from my perspective and most of the managers that I would deal with on this, I think we would probably go back to council at one of our quarterly reports as part of the budget.
Okay, yeah, no, I misread that. Sorry. Yeah, thank
I
you.
have a question for you. If when we approve this, it does not include the separate with the procurement.
That's an excellent question. The library board is deferring their review until we complete ours. Last time, same thing. So back in 2007, we completed our review. The library board issued a look at our format and then utilized a similar approach. Definitely the library limits are a lot lower. And so we take a look at the relationship between this bylaw and our corporate municipal budget, and take a look at the library specific budget and their limits. And investments there. So, yeah, I think to the mayor's point, the limits that we have in the existing library, which is about very low.
If there are no other, oh,
Through you, thanks. I just thought of something. I'm just wondering, I don't know how to articulate this, so please bear with me here. Is there anything like that we're doing in process where if this legislation comes into play, like say we're buying something from Quebec or whatever, where we're in the process of it, when the legislation comes into effect, I'm hoping there's a transition period where we can still purchase those goods and services if they are a lower thing, because my inkling is that if this comes into effect quickly, we may have to revisit some of those purchases, right? Again, I'm not sure how to articulate those.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I think it's always the devil's in the details of that legislation,
Okay.
definitely. So we would take a look at that. We do have, like, yeah, some good examples. We have approval at this point to move ahead with some purchases in advance of the capital and operations budget. If the legislation is approved before we go out to do that, then we have to take a look at that and report back.
One follow-up is, I do find this bill very interesting because a bunch of, the trade barriers across Canada were brought down because the premiers worked together on it, and then Ontario brought this bill in, which is just counter to. So my worry is that other provinces may do the same thing. So I just want to flag for us to be watching in case they do as well. Reciprocity. Thank you.
all right, we're looking forward to get some. Councillor Boyko, second by Deputy Black, all in favor, it's carried. Thank you. On to board job.
Afternoon. Council, through Mayor Senis, so the report in front of you. There's a couple recommendations that it's more or less been brought on by our mandatory certification, and we're not the only ones. It's actually quite a discussion. So our man that comes and does our SCBA, so he sees a lot of departments in the eastern part of the province. It's, same boat, and working on things too. So on the first one, it's our training coordinator has been history 12 hours, so we're finding it difficult to, and even with the deputy chief right now, finding it difficult to keep ahead of the game. Training our firefighters, a little on just what we need to do every 2 weeks to stay on top, and there's a little the certification to keep our people up. So a big part of it is, we're in pretty good shape otherwise for firefighters, thanks to Norwood and our recruits, and a lot of applications, and a lot of kids have taken pre-service. So that does help us out there in the long run. But to come back and keep moving ahead with our firefighters that looking, for officers, or like on the grid on page 2 shows the different things that we've got to keep up with. So a lot of the time, right now the EOETA is having a tough time, and we're just getting rolling now. It's on the board down there, more courses. And again, it's difficult because they're having a hard time finding instructors for these courses, which are supposed to be there from the OFM, and the start of this. So we have the opportunity now to offer in-house courses that we can actually get, and if we have an instructor, this instructor can do our courses. We have to have a 12-person minimum a lot of these courses, which, we've got enough in the county that, if we can fill 7 spots, then maybe the rest of the county can fill the other 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever. So, and then our instructor. So, again, too, this instructor, we're finding it difficult to find our firefighters. In the past, we had a couple of deputy chiefs that were retired or semi-retired, or had their one's gone and one's leaving, probably in the short future, that did a lot of the hours work for the equipment maintenance, everything. So a lot of this is done by, right now, myself and the deputy. In fact, yesterday, it was stuck with the SCBA updates and whatnot for a whole day and this morning, so I'm feeling it. I'm not that young chicken anymore, so. But it's hard to find, a lot of firefighters that they may be off, but they have side jobs and stuff. Or they're, they've been working nights, so they're not available. So we're looking at the thought of this trainer could take a lot of other jobs on too. Another big thing is our firefighters a lot of them are shift work anymore and maybe unable to make that first and third Wednesday or that second and fourth Tuesday training. And there might be a few, they might be able in that shift work to do, the trainer could take that up to the daytime, morning or an afternoon, the 2 or 3 hour training session that they can catch up with our normal training session. So that would help a lot with the training that they're not doing. Right. And right now, that takes up a pile of time. Second recommendation is technical rescue. It's going to be almost impossible to get done. We're not getting a lot from the OFM right now. They say they can help us through, but a lot of the time we've got 2028. I don't know what's going to happen. So in 20, I was just trying to think how far back it was. It was 26 years ago that there was funding from the province. And at that time, a lot of the chiefs, after the fact sat down and said, we should start our own search and rescue team. So at that time, we were looking to purchase a rescue unit. So we were about $7,000 come down and we purchased this rescue. So we opted out of the SRU. So here's a thought that after all these years that, instead of training all our people to technical and a lot of training go on, that we start and we join this SRU. So SRU is looking that hopefully that they can do a deal with the ASNE. So instead of starting their training all over again, which they've done for years, that they just go in and do the testing when it be done. So we actually the members offered a significant downgrade in what it would have cost for to join back in, and they've always paid $1,000 a year into the SRU, and that's just for equipment upgrades and training and stuff. So might be a good opportunity that we don't need to train as many people, but we can train an optimum few to technical. We're still going to have to go into awareness and operations level for a bunch too, so that they can help on shore or whatever needs to be done. So it's a good option right now, instead of looking to the future of train maybe 75 fighters. And you'd want at least 25 technical in our own system, that somebody's going to be available for these daytime calls. As you know, we're getting a pile of snow and we don't have much ice out there. And oh God, I seen snowmobile tracks on the Ennismore side yesterday going across, and what is going on? So just preach that, but stay off the ice. That's huge. So, it's in front of you. If there's questions, please. Fire away.
Councilor Boyka.
Thank you through you, Mayor Sanderson. Thank you for that, Chief Joplin. This question is about the first of the two motion or recommendations. It seems to me in the conversations that we've been having in this room over the last number of years that there's three fundamental problems or challenges facing the fire. First, the cost of equipment, and I think we're dealing with that with our long-term capital budget projections going out. The second is meeting the demands of the Fire Protection Prevention Act that was passed in 2020, and then the certification recommendations that came out 2 years later. And the third is and linked to that is the aging of many of our firefighters. And so I'd ask for a comment from our chief about the aging of the firefighters. We're all getting older. A number are older, are in their 50s and 60s, and some even older. Is there a problem with a number of the firefighters that I know they're able to do the work, but are some of the halls facing a bigger problem with the aging, and therefore looking down the road of where we have a recruitment and retention issue? Or are all of the halls okay, or some, is that challenge greater than others?
For you, Mayor Sanis, yes, it's a different society now, especially with the younger generation. It's, you need to keep them more enthused, more interaction than I think in the old days that, but then again, you look at where we come from, there's fewer calls to many calls, and it's difficult.
Yeah.
We do have older firefighters. And, you know, there's always a role in every department, and even the older ones, you know, they not necessarily SCDA, they're not doing the hard physical part of it. There's always a job for them. As I, you know, the questions come in, we have really decent applications, hall 1, 2, and 5. Halls 3 and 4, not so much as, you know, up there, we've got smaller populations and the demographics are older. And pretty well just those over the last, since COVID started, a lot of old horseshoe have come up and purchased places that, you know, they're looking to get away and retire early, and, you know, and that's not helpful. So, you know, if this trainer, and then the thought is too, is just like, he's got to be part and parcel, big time, of recruitment and retention. So like I say, we need a person in there that can help, you know, the younger generation stay interested and engaged more than, you know, maybe we can offer now ourselves. I need somebody with some bright ideas. There's lots of people who actually had just a retired firefighter that is now selling product for one of the companies, and I quite a chat with him and found out that he sent me his resume already. And he's got, you know, everything you'd even think about. So, but yeah, we need yeah, it's tough. Right now, I could say Ennismore, I've probably got a stack, and Kim knows that huge stack of young people, and a lot of them are free service and they're looking to get into it. A few for Lakeville, not many, quite a few for Bridgenorth, there's no doubt about it. Actually, we got 7 to interview tonight, and 3 of them are going to be all 4, and 1 back and forth, 3 and 4. So that's a bonus to me. Hopefully work out.
If I could have one more follow-up. So just so that I'm clear in my mind, I don't know whether this question is to Kim or to you. So when this full-time trainer is hired, and I absolutely fully support the hiring of this new person in order to meet the 2022 firefighter certification regulations and all of the deadlines that are there as part of it, will the job description be really explicit and say that a couple of bullets on there are that your responsibility is also recruitment and retention? And then that'll be part of the job description and annual performance review.
No,
Or
I don't know.
No,
I'm asking.
through you, Mayor Sinis. Yes, I would think, yeah, wholeheartedly, yes.
Okay.
That trainer, yeah, go ahead, Kim.
I was just going to support your answer. Typically, when we do a recruitment, the first part of that recruitment is taking a look at the job description to
Yeah.
make sure that it reflects what we're looking for.
Right.
And will meet the current needs. So that is something for sure that could be, if it's not already there, added to
So
the job
it'll be
description.
explicit. Excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
Through you, thanks. I just want to clarify, in regards to joining the county unit, when we indicate that it's 22,000 upfront and then an annual fee of 1,000, like further in the same paragraph, it says, however, the training requirements and costs overall will be less for the department. Do we have any idea what like those numbers are for training?
Well, if ice water rescue is literally 80 hours plus. And then on top of that, there's trench rescue and everything else that, well, we aren't getting it. Right now, under the NR bylaw, we're just awareness level. And we really don't have a solid points in there that what we're going to do about that, but we do have an idea that that's for people to call. But it's huge hours, like just to do it ourselves. So if, like, I'm thinking for SRU, you'd look at maybe 15 personnel that get them up to technical rescue, that they actually enter a water system. And we'd have to do at least 45, 50 operations, because you don't know who's coming at one time, to help on on the shore base. Just that's getting equipment ready, getting them ready to go do it. At the same time, I'm not sure how many are left in the SRU, and they'll have to, hopefully their training is be up top notch, which it is, but pass these tests pretty quick and get things going. So it's still everything in the air. So
Um, That's okay. It's, will we know those numbers this year? Like, those numbers be coming to us? Any report? in the future?
Actually, I'm not Chuck or Pedersen, the chief of Eurodummer. He's kind of, for the last bunch of years, taken under his wing as the chief officer for that. And he's close, but he's not close with the ASNE. So I'm hoping maybe in the next, by February, March, you'll have a good understanding of what's going to happen.
Thank you.
Thank you, through Mayor Sennis. Just again, yes, PSRU. So by joining them, that means that we won't have to train all of our folks. It'll be a smaller number, and that's the savings. that
Yes,
You're
yes.
saying there will be. Where's the equipment? Is it still local equipment they go to, or?
Through Intercenter. So they have a trailer,
Okay.
and right now I believe it's kept in Duro fire hall.
Okay.
Kind of to take off wherever from there.
From there, okay.
So again, too, we have a pile of equipment that, also we could help out with that. Rear that in. So we're not buying all this equipment
Right.
right now. So we'd have a lesser number by far than what we do in ice water rescue.
So they have the key equipment, and then we support at the shore or whatever. Yeah, okay. So question with respect to the instructor, and I think you mentioned in the report that they could also act for other townships that send their staff for training. Is that
I'm
going
saying
there?
if we offer the courses here,
Yeah.
so we'd offer them, they train, but
Okay.
we can always
Open it up
open it up
to other townships.
Yeah, and then,
Most townships aren't going to have an instructor.
yeah, a lot of them are going for full-time instructors
are
now,
they? Yeah,
but I'm thinking it just, there might be a nominal fee we charge, whatever. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was just thinking more on the terms of initially at least sharing the person with North Forth or Duro or, one of the other townships close by. If they don't have somebody, is that an option to have a portion of that salary? And then we would train their folks at a same percentage.
Yeah, so right now Trent Lakes has a full-time, Cavan now has full-time. Duradomer's looking at it, and probably not so much this future, maybe 2 or 3 years, so.
So maybe we can work with them on some kind of
Yeah, and I'm thinking too that, well, I'm not sure, we're still working some of that out, but yeah, especially for the EUTA. Yeah, we rent them, so.
even as a start to our program to share services with Duro-Dummer. I'm not sure they'll be big enough to afford
Yeah, it's,
somebody on their own, so.
Janice.
Yeah, so if I can just maybe add to that a little bit, I don't think it would really be where we would be sharing so that Duro-Dummer pays 10% and we pay. We're intending to move forward or requesting permission eventually in
Yeah.
my first report
Yeah.
to move forward with this position. I think what Gord is saying is if we have our instructor and we're going to deliver an officer's course and we have 7 people that we need to take that course or 4 or whatever the number is, you need a minimum of 12.
Right.
So we could then offer that course to the rest of the county departments. And if they had a few folks to fill up that roster, that they could contribute to those costs as well.
In charge of
So
the fee for
yeah,
doing it?
yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Right, if there are no other questions, we have a recommendation before us. Someone to. Mr. Boyko, Mr. Pula seconding, all in favor, that's carried. Thank you very much. Want to keep Barry.
Thank you, Mayor Senes. As outlined in the report before you, the report provides options to support council through the recruitment process for the Chief Administrative Officer position following the formal notice of resignation from Janice LaValle effective June 30th, 2026. This position is critical to the township's operations and strategic direction, and timely planning is essential to ensure continuity and organizational stability. The report provides an overview of 3 recruitment options to support council, along with timelines, cost estimates, and key considerations. Option 1 would be the use of in-house resources. Option 2 would be a hybrid approach with third-party advisors support. And option 3 would be full outsourcing to a recruitment firm. Based on the research and feedback that I've received from other municipalities, full outsourcing to a recruitment firm, which is option 3, offers the strongest value and provides for access to specialized expertise and networks. Today, I'm seeking council's direction on the preferred recruitment approach so that planning can begin immediately. Should council choose to proceed with option 2 or 3, the advisor or consultant selection process would start this month. So the results could be presented to council for direction at an upcoming council meeting in January. This should allow for a smooth transition and onboarding of a new CAO by June. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
No, we took- Through you, I'm actually curious, through the supported documentation, it indicates that like council's supportive or involved along the way. I'm curious what that actually looks like. Like, will be setting up separate meetings where council's involved, or are they public meetings? I'm just curious what that looks like. I've never been part of this kind of process.
I believe that would be dependent on what your choice is moving forward. And then dependent on whoever is supporting us through that process.
Thank you.
I thank you for the report. It's very extensive, and it gives us 3 opportunities of which direction we want to go. The recommendation is to go with option 3 to have a full outsourcing with a firm. And I think by doing that, it sets the net out further so that, we're trying to get the best person for the job. And I fully support the recommendations for us. Okay, moved by Deputy Mayor Black, seconded by Councilor Boyko. All in favor? It's carried. Is there any consent items that anyone wants pulled? Not, motion to them all. Councillor Boyko moving, seconded by Councillor Koulis, all in favor, that's carried. Is there any other new or unfinished business? Not, then I will go to the first 2 bylaws, Madam Clerk.
Yes, thank you. 75 is to appoint Donna Ballantyne to the library board. And then 76 is to adopt a new procurement bylaw and policy.
I have some of those. Deputy Mayor Black, seconded by Councillor Boyko. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. I need a motion. Councillor Koulis moving, Deputy Mayor Black seconding. All in favor? It's carried. Okay, we'll reconvene the other room. 5-minute jag. It's been snowing like crazy out there. I will watch again. Yeah.